to blind faith in market activity. I used to be an insurance commissioner. I believe in the insurance marketplace, but that doesn't mean you don't watch the swindlers and the crooks and the shortcutters that are going to try and rip off ultimately the public. That's what happened. We're still picking up the pieces at great expense to the public for that misguided, unbridled faith in the marketplace that occurred in the last administration. But the question I want to ask you about relates to job growth in this tight budget time frame. I believe one area where we can have job growth with still consistent with very sound budget principles is in the area of pension funding relief. This committee regrettably played a part in putting into law an extraordinarily stringent funding regimen for pensions. I believe it made no sense because it didn't match assets with liability timelines. That was before the collapse. Once the collapse occurred, we've got crushed portfolio values because of market correction. We've got low interest rates, which further produce a very onerous funding picture. They need, I believe, interim funding relief, not to the jeopardy of the solvency of the plan, but basically bringing in line solvency funding requirements more in line with solvency principles. If we do that, Mr. Secretary, we can also have, for companies maintaining defined benefit pension plans, more cash in the operation to grow the operation, to hire employees, to grow the economy. I'd like your comments on that.
Congressman, I think you're right. We think there's a good case for targeted pension relief for just the reasons you've said, and we'd like to work with you on doing that. I'm not sure we have exactly the precise way to do it, but the basic principle is right, and we're prepared to work with you on that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yield back.
Mr. Thompson, California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here, and I want to thank you personally for your responsiveness and of you and your office and working on issues through my office. Two members before me have talked about this new jobs credit, and I want to associate myself with their concerns. Mr. McDermott talked specifically about projects that actually generate jobs and at the same time generate security to communities. And I just think it's incongruent that we want to spend money to hopefully create jobs in small businesses. I don't know anybody in business who hires an employee because they're going to get a tax break. People hire employees because they have work to do. And then at the same time, this budget cuts the Corps of Engineers. And there's projects all across this country that are critical to the public safety of the people that we represent, projects that are beyond shovel-ready. They're already going, and they're terribly underfunded. So it just seems to me that we could get a lot more bang for taxpayer dollars if we looked at that rather than trying to put some seven-bank shot together on how we hire employees.
Congressman, I just want to say I completely agree. The most important thing we can do is to make sure there is growing demand for the products American businesses are creating. That's a necessary thing. Nothing is possible without that. But I just ask you, please take a careful look at the way this was proposed. There's a lot of concerns about previous versions of this. We've listened very carefully to those concerns. I'm not sure we've addressed all those concerns, but this is designed with a view to exactly those concerns. And we think it's better than the previous, but we do not have a monopoly of ideas on this. And again, our test, like you said, is we want to do things that have the highest prospect for $1 of taxpayer resources, providing a spark to investment, a spark to job creation. And we think these can play a role alongside what you said, which is support for infrastructure, state and local governments, those kind of measures.
Thank you. Another proposal in the budget is the idea that we would do away with the LIFO, the last in, first out accounting practice. This is an accounting practice that works well for some U.S. businesses. If we do this, if we end it, what's going to happen is U.S. small businesses are going to take a big tax hit, and their competitors overseas are going to have a terrific advantage over us in the marketplace. There are some industries that have to hold their inventory for a long time. This is a fair and reasonable way to recognize that, and I would strongly urge you to go back and revisit that, along with the user fee that this budget imposes for TTB. I can't think of anything that would be more difficult for these small businesses to deal with than this. It even charges people who don't use TTB. And again, it gives a terrific advantage to our overseas competitors in the market. So I would urge you strongly to revisit these two issues. And yield back.
I might suggest, Mr. Secretary, that we may, the majority-minority, get together in a workshop atmosphere with your office to thrash these ideas out where we have more than 5 minutes back and forth. Yes, Mr. Ryan? Seemed like you've been with me all weekend on TV. But you're right.
But not in person. We should get together more often.
All right. I'd like to yield to you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. First, just an order of business. I sent you a letter last year, Mr. Geithner, about Delphi pensioners, salary pensioners. I want to insert this for the record. If you could get back to me, I really want to get a response from you.
Without objection.
Thank you. Okay. I brought up page 146 in your budget, which is your S1 budget totals. And when you take a look at this, I just find this amazing. You've got your budget totals here, which by your own admission, from your own budget director, you're a smart guy. You've got smart economists over there. All of them say that for the medium and long run, budget deficit's got to get below 3% of GDP. Yet this budget plan you're bringing to us doesn't even get close to it.
Exactly, you're exactly right. And we've said clearly
right,
that.
So since I have 3 minutes,
right. Okay, sorry.
So you got this warning under here. It's like the warning on a cigarette pack. You've got this little magic box underneath your budget totals that says we're going to have a commission do it. We're going to have this partisan commission, 2-to-1 ratio of Democrats over Republicans that will give us a report after the election. Vote on it.
Not a 2-to-1 ratio. That's not fair. That's not a 2-to-1 ratio. And let me say it slightly differently. What we're saying is we're going to solve our part of the mess we inherited.
Okay.
So we inherited a structural deficit, and to bring that down, we're going to have to work together.
Then why don't you do it in your budget? If you're going to solve this problem, why don't you're the president? You guys run the government. If you're going to solve our fiscal situation, why don't you do that? Why don't you give us a budget that actually gets the deficits to a sustainable level? Let me just quote.
Just one more thing.
No,
Let's just do it again.
Let me read a quote. I got 3 minutes. Let me read a quote from Mr. Orszag in the Wall Street Journal, which I completely agree with. The unusual situation that the government finds itself in, with other countries willing to finance the U.S. debt at low rates, won't last. And he added, when it flips, the question is how do you get ahead of that to avoid the downward spiral of rising interest rates, the plunging dollar, and a sinking economy? I couldn't have said it better myself.
I think it's a good quote, too. I agree with that.
The vigilantes in the bond markets are going to get us, and the American people are going to get hurt. And so why aren't you giving us a budget, not punting to a commission, but why aren't you giving us a budget that, using your own definitions and standards, actually is sustainable?
Congressman, we're proposing a budget, again, that takes the huge mess we inherited, cuts that deficit.
You can blame Bush only so long.
Congressman, it's just a fact. It's a factual thing.
And all of you over there.
I would say when I left the Treasury in 2000, it was surpluses on OMB and CBOs around as far as the eye can see. When we came in, it was a deep trench.
You obviously inherited a tough situation. You're making it worse by your own admission.
Again, we're willing to join with you and help digging our way out of this mess. We're proposing to bring that deficit down from its ridiculous levels today where we inherited them, more than half as a share of economy. We get it below 4%, but we like a little assistance in taking it the next way forward. But you're absolutely right about the basic imperative, which is unless we get these down, we're going to be weaker as a country in the future. And it is very good for the country to hear you and your colleagues stand here today and say, we're ready to be fiscally responsible. That is a good thing for the country. We welcome it. We want to work with you on how we're going to do that.
You shouldn't worry about the criticism from us as much as you should from the bond markets.
Mr. Lawson of Connecticut, so much for the bipartisanship.
You've just seen a portion of a House Ways and Means Committee hearing on the President's fiscal year 2011 budget proposal. You can see the hearing in its entirety by logging on to our website.